Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sallallahu alayka ya Rasulullah. Sallallahu alayka ya Ahl Baytika al-Mazlumin. Sallallahu alayka ya Mawla wa ya Ibn Mawla. Ya Aba Abdullah. Ya Shaheed, Ya Garib, Ya Madlum, Ya Madlum Karbala. Ya Laytana kunna ma'akum. Ya Laytana kunna ma'akum. I begin in the name of Allah, the most merciful and the most merciful. May His peace and blessings be upon His holy messenger Rasulullah and His holy immaculate household, Ahl Bayt, and the master of time, Imam Sahib Asr Zaman. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Dear brothers and sisters and respected communities, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, what I want to begin with is a story of on the way to Karbala. Imam Hussein alayhi salam had informed Ali Akbar alayhi salam that we're going to go there and we're going to be martyred. So Ali Akbar alayhi salam asked Imam Hussein alayhi salam, are we on the right path? He says, of course we are. Then Ali Akbar alayhi salam says something very powerful. He says, then why does it matter if we come to death or death comes to us? This is yaqeen. Yaqeen is something that he had, and the rest of the 72 companions that were marching in Karbala. Yaqeen is full certainty in the Imam. No matter what happens in his life, just be next to the Imam. This is yaqeen. This is the number one quality that all the companions had, and this is what we all need to have. This quality that the Imams had gave them ma'rifah of the Imam. They did not just know that there was an Imam. They had ma'rifah, deeper understanding of what it means to be an Imam and what the Imam's position truly is. And without this ma'rifah, you can never truly be a companion of the Imam. Because this is the same thing. Other people at that time knew Imam Hussein alayhi salam was the Imam. Many people had pledged letters to him of support. They all knew that he was an Imam at that time, but only those that had ma'rifah of the Imam showed up at Karbala. So this quality is what I want to talk about today. Ma'rifah is that deeper understanding. After the tragedy of Karbala, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, salawat, he went around and created networks of majalis and networks of education to give people ma'rifah of the Imam. So this ma'rifah does not get lost. So that there is not another Ashura that occurs in later Imam's time. But unfortunately, this ma'rifah had gotten lost. Because today, what I mentioned yesterday was that today to do our part today for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we say Ya laytana ma'akum, is to be with his grandson today. And the Imam Sahib is among us for us today. This is our duty today. But do we really have ma'rifah of our Imam? Because this Imam is also Qareeb. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was Qareeb then, the Imam Mahdi was Qareeb now. There's a story narrated by one of the Ayatollahs. They say that there was a companion of the Imam walking around from town to town. This is a few hundred years back. And he was knocking on people's doors. And when he was knocking on people's doors, he would ask them, can I come inside? And the people would realize he's someone important, and they would always say, give us a few seconds. He finally showed up at one person's door. He says, yes, you can come inside, but just give me 2 minutes. He ran inside to clean up his house, everything that he thought that he didn't want the Imam to see. Everything that he just wanted to clean everything up. 2 minutes. He was not ready for the Imam. When he runs to the door to go welcome the person inside, he sees that the person has left. So he's disappointed. He knew he was someone important. Why? Because, you can see the nur on people's faces. You can see the akhlaq and the character and the way they speak. So he knew he was someone important. So he ran out. He's like, oh my God, I just lost this person. He left. Maybe he's angry at me. What's going on? Let me go around and see what's happening. He follows. He finally comes across this man. And he sees him standing there making a dua. He has his hands raised sorrowfully. He says, oh Allah, every house I went to in this town, they waited. They asked for a few minutes before I can come inside. None of them are ready for me. How can they be ready for the Imam of their time? Now ask yourselves today, before thinking about that, if we're ready for him or not. Today, this morning, personal question for everyone. Did you think about the Imam today this morning? Did you send your salam to the Imam of our time this morning? Just take a second to think. Did you do this or not? We say we're the Shia of our Imam, but hence the first thing in the morning, we're not even say salam to our Imam. Or even think about him. Think about how we could be helping him today. Has this thought honestly crossed your mind this morning? You know, we hear from majalis, this is great. But what is this majalis if you're neglecting the Imam of your time? Do you know any of the hadiths of the Imam of our time today? Have you read any of the letters of the Imam of our time today? Which he wrote. He wrote many letters to Shaykh Mufid and to Maraj at that time. Have you taken a second to even look at the letters that he has written? The words he has told us. Yet we say that we are Shia. Like I told you yesterday, the companion went to the Imam and says, do not give yourself this honorable title unless you truly work towards being a Shia. And if we ourselves today are neglecting the Imam of our own time, then how can we say to the Imam Hussein, you aren't even here for the Imam of your time today? People always wonder, they say, if we were there, we would be at Karbala. No, you would not. Because if you cannot even think about the Imam of your time today, how can you say that you would be at Karbala? These are things that you need to think about. And these are things that we need to ponder upon. Because we need to build up this foundation so that the Imam of our time today is not Gharib. The problem is that the concept of Imam Mahdi Ajtf Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad is just more so a concept. We don't treat it like a reality. We always have this idea that one day the Imam's going to come back. Whenever he comes back, he'll come back like the knight on a shining horse and just save the world, inshallah. We don't have the yaqeen that he's here right now amongst us. He walks amongst us. He looks at us and looks at our actions. We don't have this yaqeen. And this yaqeen, unfortunately, is what we lack today. And this is the yaqeen that we need to have in order to become a true Shia of the Imam today. And our foundations of our faith depend on it. Our entire religion depends upon it. In Ziyarat al-Jamia, we say that Man arada Allahu badabikum. He who seeks Allah starts with you. We are saying this to the Imam in that ziyarah. Because in order to reach the Imam, to reach Allah, we have to reach the Imam. Allah's direct rope on earth today and his direct connection to him is the Imam of our time. So for us to become those companions who loved Allah and reached Allah, you start with the Imam. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam salawat Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad said that Ana Madinatan im wa aliyan babuha, I am the city of knowledge, but Ali is the top in the gate. So what is the gate today? The Imams each inherit that knowledge one by one until the Imam today. The path to Rasulullah and the path to Allah starts with the Imam of your time today. So if you neglect him, you're going to be lost. And no matter how many beats that you do, all of your acts of worship, all the prayers you can do, you can pray all night and all day, they will not count if you do not recognize the Imam of your time. In fact, we have a hadith from the time of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, that there was a man who, he would pray for 40 days with his family, day and night. And then he would cry out to Allah. Oh Allah, why am I, cry out to God at that time because, and say that, why are my hadiths not being answered? He was someone whose faith was not too strong. He had a concept that there's a higher being. So Nabi Isa goes and tells him. He says the reason your prayer is not being accepted is because you don't have full yaqeen in me. You have yaqeen that there's a creator, but you don't have yaqeen that I am his messenger. This man's amal and du'as and whatever he was doing was not being accepted by Allah. Now, this is the importance of this time, right? Because think about what happened before Imam Hassan alayhi salam started his journey. It was a time of Hajj, and people are about to go to Arafah. And he called upon the people. He says, leave with me. Do not go to Arafah. He himself, the Imam of his time, what is a ritual when you abandon the Imam of your time? There is no significance. So he called the people with him. And yet people, some of them stayed. And they went on to do Arafah. Arafah is one of the greatest days we have. It says that those who reach the day of Arafah, there is no sin that's not forgiven. It's one of the greatest days in the entire year. But the Imam called them away from it. Away from that great deed. Why? Because the greatest deed of that time was to be with the Imam of their time. And the people who did not recognize this, unfortunately, were the ones who suffered. And the ones who, in Allah's eyes, disobeyed him and his messenger. Imam Muhammad alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, has a hadith, and he said that those, if they were to pray all day, pray all night, fast all day, perform Hajj their entire life in Ihram, do all the sacrifices for Allah, give charity as much as they can do, obey everything that Allah says, but they did not go with Imam Hassan alayhi salam that day and went to Arafah, none of their actions matter. This is the importance of recognizing the Imam of your time. It says that there's a hadith that those who do not recognize the Imam of their time and they die at death of Jahiliyyah, a death of ignorance. Now, what does that recognition truly mean? Does that recognition truly mean that you just know there's an Imam? Or you have marifah of the Imam? Does that recognition mean that you just know he's out there and you live on with your daily lives? Or you live every day working towards the Imam, working for him, working for his message, defending his message, working to build communities for him? There's a deeper meaning of that marifah. And unfortunately, those who do not understand it will die at the Jahiliyyah. The importance of the Imam has been told to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. On the day of Qadir, when he told people, when he gathered thousands on the day of Qadir, and he told everyone, I leave behind you two things, the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, my tradition. And if you hold on to these, you will never go astray until Yawm al-Qiyamah. But if you let go of these, you will go astray. And that is the greatest division in this ummah after that. That greatest problem is those people who let go of the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran. And this is why we see the ummah as it is today. And this is why we see the world as it is today, when people make up their own ideologies in the world today, and say this and this, and make up their own hadiths and own interpretations of the Quran. And why Islam has been given a bad image is why people left the message of Rasulullah that day. They did not stay strong in holding on to Ahlul Bayt and the Quran. The root of all problems started from that day, and those who ignored that message. So, and then Rasulullah, there's another hadith from Rasulullah, and he says that I am the first person who is present before God, and in my book and my household, and then my nation. And I shall ask my nation, what have they done to my book and to my Ahlul Bayt? Now ask yourself, before I go into the Ahlul Bayt, I want to ask yourselves, what have you done to the Quran? There's a hadith, unfortunately, we have abandoned the Quran, as much as, I hate to say it. We only look at the Quran when it comes to recitation before a program, when it comes to recitation of the Fatiha, when it comes to Ramadan. But every single day, the Quran in our house will be a witness for us in the Day of Judgment. Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed his entire life so we hold true to that Quran. What are we truly done? There's a hadith that says that three things will complain on the Day of Judgment. Empty masjid. So for those who are not coming to the masjid these days, I really urge you guys to come. Wherever you may be, just come to the masjid. Do not leave the masjid empty. Because the masjid itself will be a witness for you, Yawm al-Qiyamah. A witness for those who came and a witness against those who did not come. The second is a scholar who is amongst the Jahiliyyah and is ignored. And the third is the Quran which is not used. A Quran which is not used will be a witness against you in Yawm al-Qiyamah. Either it will speak for you or speak against you. Reciting the Quran gives you light in this life and life in the Akhirah. It says that in the hadith, it says that every verse you recite, you'll ascend a level, a different higher level in paradise. So remember this every time you want to recite verse of the Quran, and you're thinking, how much should I recite today? Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, salawat, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He has a hadith when he says that if you recite 20 verses, that person may be considered amongst the Dakirin, those who do dhikr of Allah. Those who recite 30 verses a day may be considered as someone who's devout. And those who recite 50 verses are the ones who are submissive to Allah, those who are up to Allah. So ask yourself, what do you want to be every single day? 50 is the minimum to become up to Allah. So if you're not reciting at least 50 verses a day, think about your position with Allah. Imam Hussein sacrificed his entire life to preserve the message of the Quran. And Imam Ali says in Nahj al-Balagha that be mindful of Allah and the Quran and be the first to implement it. What does he mean? He says rush to implement it, be the first. The Quran is the ethical, moral code that we have. It teaches us many, many lessons. How to be better people, how to fear Allah, to have trust in Allah, to be nice to each other, to have good akhlaq. These are the teachings of the Quran. And unfortunately, if we don't stick true to them, we will not have these qualities. And the second thing the Quran teaches us is to have foundation of our faith, and to learn the foundations of our faith. When I mentioned Gadir before, the verse that was revealed before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam raised the hand, before he raised the hand, Imam Ali said, the first verse that was revealed before that was said that if you have not revealed this message, it is like you have revealed nothing. So the Quran tells us this. And the verse that came after this is what? Today I've completed your favor upon you today. So the wilayat of Imam Ali is what? Shart al-Din, a condition of faith. Your faith is not complete without wilayat. The wilayat of the Imam Ali and the wilayat of Imam Sahib al-Saman Ajtf. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So our faith is not complete without marifa, without understanding. All these actions we have done throughout the year, if I ask you this first question in the morning, is that you haven't even thought about the Imam this morning? Your actions and your faith have been incomplete. The Imam has been predicted in multiple hadiths and multiple narrations, and even in the Quran, there's many ta'wil of the verses that talk about the Imam. People always say that, why isn't the name Imam alayhi salam mentioned in the Quran? Why isn't this Imam mentioned in the Quran? The Quran came hand in hand with Rasulullah. Rasulullah was the walking Quran. People forget that the mouth that you heard the Quran from was whose mouth? Rasulullah himself. So what he said, the hadith or the Quran is one. And there's many verses in the Quran that indicate the Imam. The Quran has the foundations of it, and the ta'wil is with the Imams. And those who question that, why isn't something so important inside the Quran? I ask you this. Prayer, is it not wajibat? Prayer is one of the most wajib things we have to do every single day. Without prayer, prayer is not complete. Does Allah tell you how to pray inside the Quran? How many rakats, what to do? Or does he just tell you there's prayer? Likewise, Allah tells you there's imamat, and Rasulullah tells you who the imams are. Likewise with prayer, Allah tells you there's prayer, but Rasulullah tells you how to pray. So this is how the Quran works. Those people who say, show us from the Quran, show us from the Quran. Yes, we can. We can show you multiple verses in the Quran. An-Nabar Adim, the great news of Imam Ali alayhi salam. The verses of Wilayat that we have. The verses of the completion of faith. We have verses in the Quran revealed for Eid al-Mubahila. When Rasulullah says that, bring your children, bring yourselves, and I'll bring my children, I'll bring my woman, and I'll bring ourselves. Now, think about this. On Mubahila, Rasulullah is saying 3 categories. My children, my woman, and myself, ourselves. The first category is children. Is Imam Hassan, Imam Hassan alayhi salam. The second, salawat, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second category is our woman, Sayyidah Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. But the third category he mentions in the Quran, ourselves. Now there was Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Sayyidah Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, and there was one other person. Imam Ali alayhi salam did not fit within children, he did not fit within the woman. He was the Prophet's own self. So those who ask you to show Imams in the Quran and the importance of Imams in the Quran, show them that one verse. I can show you multiple verses, but inshallah, this lecture is not about that today. Inshallah in the future, but that's just the most important point you need to know. And everyone knew this, this is agreed upon in Shia and Sunni Tafsirs as well, that this verse has this meaning. And now going back to the Imam over time, he was well known in the Hadiths, well known in the Quran. And this is why, when it came to the time of his birth, before his birth, in the time of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Bani Abbas at that time, they knew that the Imam is going to be born. They knew someone is going to come. They had heard the hadith that says that there will be 12 after me. They have heard the hadith that it says, Rasulullah says that a day will not come. And if there's even 1 second left in the earth, it'll be extended as to someone from my progeny with my name will come and rule on this earth when it is filled with injustice, and he will fill it with justice. Bani Abbas knew this. This hadith is found in Sunni books, in the major Sunni books. They all knew that the Imam was going to come. And this is why when it came to the time of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, they put him in house arrest. They were watching his house. No movement inside of his house or outside of his house was done without Bani Abbas knowing about it. They knew he was going to be born. So you may ask, if they knew he was going to be born, how was the Imam born? Didn't they just kill him? What happened? These are important things we need to know. Before we gain knowledge of the Imam, we have to know about his birth, the circumstances around his birth, what happened. Before we become his companions, if we don't know about the circumstances of his birth, what happened, how can we become his companions? In order to gain knowledge of the Imam, we have to understand the story from the beginning. Inshallah, this is what I'm going to talk about his birth now, today, and tomorrow we'll talk about the Ghaiba. And then after that, we're going to talk about each of the qualities of becoming his companions in each lecture. But right now, I'm going to talk about the story of his birth, because it starts from here. Now, Bani Abbas, they knew that he was going to come. And mashallah, they had this knowledge, but they had ignorance. They had knowledge, but they didn't have marifah. Even Shaitan knew of Allah's significance, but he still ignored them. Why? Because his own ignorance, his pride that they have. So just like that, Bani Abbas knew it's going to come. So Imam Ajtf al-Rajul's mother, Narjis, in some narrations they say her name was Malika, she was hidden. Her signs of pregnancy were hidden. And people ask, how could this be? Didn't Allah hide the signs of pregnancy from the mother of Musa alayhi salam in the Quran? The Quran tells us. When Nabi Musa alayhi salam was before he was born, Pharaoh made a call that all children of Bani Israel will be killed. Imam Jafar alayhi salam tells us that about 20,000 kids were killed in some hadiths. Left and right, but how did Nabi Musa alayhi salam survive? Allah, he hid the signs of pregnancy from the mother. No signs of pregnancy were shown. And this is just, Allah says, people say they can plan as much as they can, but Allah says in the Quran, وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. And people plan, but Allah plans, Allah is the best of planners. And just like Nabi Musa's mother's signs of pregnancy were hidden, his mother's, the mother Imam Mahdi, the signs of pregnancy were hidden. So when they came to the house inside and out, they didn't know she was pregnant. Imam Hassan on the day he was about to be born, he called his aunt Lady Hakima. Lady Hakima was the daughter of Imam Jawad, and she wished to be there in that birth. When she showed up at that house, she herself was shocked. She said, which one of your wives are pregnant? It doesn't look like any of them want to give birth. Allah's plan was in motion. The day on the 15th of Shaban, 255 after Hijrah, Imam Sahib al-Iman, Ajtf was born. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Narrations tell us many things about this day. Narrations tell us the first thing he did was recite the Kalama. And another narration tells us he recited one verse from the Quran. And this is a very important verse, which ties everything together, from Ashura to the Zahur. This verse is Surah Al-Qasas, Surah 28, verse 5. We wanted to bestow favor upon those who are oppressed in the land and make them leaders and heirs and inheritors. This is Allah's promise in the Quran. He wants to bestow His favor upon those who are oppressed and make them inheritors. This verse ties together Ashura to the Zuhur of the Imam. This verse says that this is Allah's promise that those who are oppressed will become inheritors. This verse talks about that when Imam Mahdi comes back and rules, the promise of Allah will have come true. Now at this time when he was born, the Abbasids were around. It was a very difficult task, as we know. People knew that he was going to be born, so he had to be hidden for a while. And the Abbasids had the Imam Hassan poisoned. They had him martyred. Just like all of our Imams before him were martyred. But Imam Hassan had a very important task. Because everyone was waiting for the 12th. They were waiting, who is the Imam after him? Abbas was waiting to kill him, and the Shias were waiting for the next Imam. So how was it that he told the people? He had to be very secretive. Imam Hassan only told a few of his companions. A handful. He only showed a few of them. So none of them would say that they never seen Imam, they don't know who Imam is. So he gathered some of his companions, said to him, this is my son. After me, he will be your leader. And after this, you'll never see him again. So the day that Imam, before he died, he also told one of his companions. He told one of his companions, Abu Adiyan, that I need you to take these letters to the Shia of Madian, and after 15 days when you come back, you'll hear mourning. I will have been martyred. And you will see the next Imam, my son, will be the Imam after me. Now he says that how will I know who the next Imam is if I haven't seen him? Because he didn't show him his son. He says that I'll give you 3 signs. First, whoever leads my prayer, because only an Imam can lead the prayer of another Imam. The second sign is this, whoever asks you for these letters that I'm giving you. And the third sign is this, that a group of people will come with money and he'll be the one who knows how much is in it. So 15 days passed, Abu Adiyan comes back, Samara, he sees the funerals occurring. He sees that the Imam Hassan has been martyred. And people have gathered for the funeral prayer. He shows up at the Makkah and sees that the masjid, he sees what's going on. He sees there's a man named Ja'far. Ja'far is the brother of Imam Hassan. He's about to lead the prayer. Now Ja'far, in our traditions, people have many traditions about him. Either some say that he repented later on, and just like the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, he repented at the end of his life. But at this moment, he himself was claiming to be an inheritor of the Imam himself. He was about to go lead the prayers. As he's about to go lead the prayers, a young child walks in. He says, Ya I have a greater right to lead this prayer than you. Right before he said, Allahu Akbar. This child was the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib Zaman. Ajtf Ta'ala, Fajaham, Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He led this prayer. And then people knew at that time that the Imam had arrived. And this is how the people recognized the Imam at their time. But as you know, the Abbasids are about to go kill him. They heard news about this. You know, Allah is the best of planners. Allah distracted them throughout many situations in the Caliph at that time. They could not reach before the prayer ends. And after the prayer ended, the Imam entered into application. And this is when Gaybat al-Sugra began. Now, inshallah, tomorrow is when we're going to talk about Gaybat al-Sugra and Gaybat al-Kubra and our responsibilities within those Gaybat. And how, during this Gaybat, we can serve the Imam. But for today, I'm going to end with a story before I go into the Musiba. To show us what Yaqeen in Imams truly means and what it truly does to you. There was a story of the Zayreen, a wife who wanted to go to Karbala, and they planned to go to Karbala. But before they went, they had news that she was pregnant. So her husband says that, maybe we should not take this journey. Because at that time, it was the 1950s, 40s. The political climate at that time was tough, and also the journey is much harder back then. So he says to her, maybe we should wait. Before we go there, let's give birth to the child first and go after. It'll be safer. And the wife, she had Yaqeen. She's someone who had Yaqeen. She said, no matter what, I want to be there. And she insisted. They said, okay, let's go. The husband and the wife went on a journey. It was a tough journey. And by the time they reached Karbala, the wife felt pains. They went to the hospital, and the doctor gave them news that maybe there's going to be a miscarriage. And the baby is miscarried. They had to perform the surgery, took the baby out. The wife started crying and crying and crying. She says, let me go to my Hussein. No matter what, let me go to my Hussein. I'm going to feel better when I see my Hussein. She goes to the shrine of Karbala. She goes and she's praying to him and says, yeah, Hussein, I came to you, and I know you're going to protect me. You promise to protect everyone who comes to you, no matter what happens. Whether you're my majlis or whether you're at my ziyarats, he's going to protect me, no matter what. And as she's crying and crying and praying, she falls asleep. She has this dream that Sayyidah Fatima herself has come and given her a baby boy. She wakes up from this dream. She rushes to the hospital. And one tradition says, one version of the story says that someone came from the hospital to call them towards the hospital. They say that we were just about to get rid of this baby, but the baby woke up and started crying. SubhanAllah. This is the Yaqeen. No matter what happens, brothers and sisters, have Yaqeen in the Imam. Whether you come into the majalis or the ziyarah, the Imam themselves protects you. You're the guest of the Imam today. You're a guest of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, Sayyidah Nisa al-Alameen. How could you ever worry? Do not ever worry. She protected the Zayreen, but no one was there to protect her son that day. Now everyone recite with me right now. Let's take our hearts to end the Karbala and recite. As-salamu ala al-Husayn wa ala Ali ibn al-Husayn wa ala awlad al-Husayn wa ala ashab al-Husayn. Let's take our hearts to Karbala today. Today is the day that he has landed. They have reached Karbala. Before they reach, they have heard about the martyrdom of Muslim. They have heard about the betrayal of the Kufans and betrayal of the Shia. The Imam's heart's broken before he even reached the land of Karbala. He's heard that Ummah Rasulullah has abandoned his grandson. They have martyred Muslim ibn Aqil. Tonight, when he reaches Karbala, they stop at this land. They're moving forward, but the Zuljalal, the horse, is not moving forward. Even the horse knew what's going to happen. So he stops in his land. He feels a feeling inside his heart he asked his companion, what is the name of this land? He felt a very unusual feeling. Some of them say it's Nainawa. He says, Ma ismu hadhihi al-ard? You know, what is the name of this land? Some say Nainawa, some give him other names. He was looking for a name. Why? Because he knew that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had given him a name. You know, one hadith tells us that one day Imam Rasulullah was praying, and he locked the room and he told Salama, do not let anyone come inside this room. I'm going to go into seclusion and pray to Allah. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you know, the little grandson of Rasulullah, he runs inside the room and starts playing with Rasulullah. Salama doesn't do anything. Then she hears crying from the room. She goes inside and says, Ya Rasulullah, what happened? Why is there crying inside this room? He says that I was playing with Imam Hussein alayhi salam and beautiful grandson on my chest, and Angel Jibreel came down and he said to me, Ya Rasulullah, this grandson that's on your chest today, one that we marched in the plains of Karbala, the one that's on your beautiful chest, his chest will be trampled upon by the horses, Ya Rasulullah. This is the grandson of Rasulullah, the one he used to play with on his chest, is going to be trampled with the horses on the plains of Karbala. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he heard this is Karbala, he says to the companions, he says, O companions, Innaha samu Karbala, this is the land named Karbala. Ilahi, a'udhu bika qalbi wa bala. Oh Allah, I seek refuge from you from this land of trials and tribulations. Because Qarb wa bala, what it means is land of trials and tribulations. Then he tells his companions, this is where we're going to stay. And his companions ask him, why do you want us to settle in this land? He says, Asabi hauna tuqtulu rijaluna. Here our men will be slaughtered and they shall be killed. This is that land. He says, Ashabi hauna tutbahu atfaluna. Our children and babies, they'll be slaughtered in this land. This is that land. He says, Ashabi hauna tusbadisauna. Even our women in this land, Ashabi, will be taken as captives. One hadith tells us that when he reached this land, he told the tribe that was there, he says, let me buy this land. We have not come here to fight, but this land will be slaughtered. The family of Rasulullah will be slaughtered in this land. Another narration tells us, he went to the men of the tribe. He says that, O men of Karbala, I have not come to fight, but we will be slaughtered here. And when we're slaughtered, please bury our bodies. There'll be no one to bury our bodies. The bodies of the men of Rasulullah and the children of Rasulullah will be left martyred and unheard to. Please bury their bodies. But the tradition says that he knew that the men would be too scared, so he went to the woman. He had to go to the woman to ask them to bury the bodies of Rasulullah. He says to them, please bury our bodies. And another tradition says that he went from the woman, he says, you know what, he knew maybe the woman would be scared. He went to the children, he says, oh children, maybe when you're playing with the dust, put some dust on our bodies and the bodies of the grandchildren of Rasulullah. These are the grandchildren of Rasulullah, subhanAllah, and they had to beg for people to put dust on just their bodies who will be martyred. Subhanallah. And Allah, wa lillahi raji'un. Please, you know, as we know, these are the days of Shafa. Let's recite the verse of Shafa for the people who are sick right now, for our loved ones. Amma yujibu mutarrada dua wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu mutarrada dua wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu mutarrada dua wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu. Everyone loud with me. Amma yujibu mutarrada dua wa yakshifu as-su'. Everyone please send your salams to Imam Sahib Ansar Zaman today, who's also a Gharib today.